Shalom and welcome to this week's edition of the Rabbi's Ramblings. Hope you've had an awesome week. Yesterday was Tisha B'Av, the ninth day of Av, on which we commemorate the destruction of the first and the second temple. So there's a story that is told of Rabbi Akiva was walking with a few of his fellow sages, and they saw a shual, a fox, running where the Holy of Holies was. So his colleagues burst out crying bitter tears over seeing the utter destruction of the temple. But Rabbi Akiva, not only did he not join them in weeping, he started laughing. So they turned to him in surprise and says, Akiva, why are you laughing? And his response, as a good Jew, was, why are you crying? They said, what do you mean, why are we crying? Look, this is the Holy of Holies, and now there's a fox running through it. So he said, because I see that the prophecy of destruction has become true and fulfilled to such a full extent, I now know for sure that so too will the positive prophecy of the rebuilding will become not only true, but true in the fullest measure. So I want to take a closer look at this story. What was the perspective of his colleagues? What was the perspective of Rabbi Akiva? So the perspective of his colleagues was that they are going to focus on the here and now. What they see in front of them is utter destruction. A place where even the holiest person on earth, the high priest, can only go into once a year, now has a fox running through it. But Rabbi Akiva says, I'm not going to focus on what's going on today. I'm going to focus on the bigger picture of what is coming. Because this perspective of this dispute or disagreement between Rabbi Akiva and his colleagues is one that exemplifies itself also in other areas of the Torah. For example, there is the idea of Zrizin Magdimin LeMitzvahs, that when it comes to the 8th day of a baby boy that's born and is healthy and he can have a bris, that he should have the bris first thing in the morning. That is a detail in the mitzvah of the bris. There is also the idea of beautifying a bris, or a mitzvah, a hiddur mitzvah, and that is done by having a large crowd. So the question is, what happens if I know that I make the bris at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'll have, say, 20 people there. But if I do it at 5 p.m., I can have 100. When should I do it? So Rabbi Akiva's colleagues are of the opinion that right now in the morning, I have the obligation to do the mitzvah at the first opportunity, so I do it right here, right now, and I don't look at the fact that I can bring beauty to the mitzvah in a greater way by doing it later in the afternoon and having a larger crowd. Rabbi Akiva, on the other hand, says that I do look at the bigger picture. Yes, there is a detail of the mitzvah that can only be fulfilled by doing it first thing in the morning, but it's a side detail. It isn't connected to the actual bris, to the actual circumcision. So therefore, because I can bring greater beauty later, by doing it later and having a larger crowd, that's what I will focus on. And this is we see in the story as that played out with the temple as well. That they see the destruction, and he sees that because of this destruction, there's going to be a greater temple, the third temple, which will be built when Mashiach comes. But actually, in an interesting way, we see that Rabbi Akiva's perspective is unique, and he has that because of his life story. Rabbi Akiva, at 40 years old, did not even know how to read Hebrew. He didn't know the alphabet. So on the regular perspective, he can focus on that fact. I don't even know what an aleph is or a bet is. There's no way that I can begin learning Torah. What's going to become of me? I'm an ignoramus. I'm a bore. But Rabbi Akiva did not have that perspective. Instead, he saw that because I don't know anything now, if I begin to apply myself into my studies, after he had been inspired to do so by his righteous wife Rachel, then now I can become a sage like no other, because it is specifically of my past of lacking that will drive me to a place that perhaps my colleagues could not have achieved. And so that is indeed what happened. And this, of course, clearly gives us a great lesson in life, that we shouldn't focus on a challenge that we're having right now. Instead, we should be like Rabbi Akiva and realize that because of this challenge, I can build a bigger, better, brighter future that would not have been possible without it. And of course, we are praying for us seeing the positive of the destruction of the second temple, which is the third temple that should be rebuilt today with the coming of Mashiach now. Shabbat Shalom. And remember, you matter. And the world is waiting for you to make a difference.